Hi, this is Arlen Geyer, and this is PH 123, Week 3, Assignment 2, which is about contrast, high contrast, normal contrast, and low contrast. And it's about using the histogram to identify the contrast. Now, you have a histogram in your camera, and most DSLRs, you cannot see the histogram until you have made the shot. So you make the shot, then you look at the histogram, and determine what the contrast range was of that shot. And then if the contrast was more than you expected, try to find a scene with less contrast. If the contrast was less than you expected, try to find a scene with more contrast. And you do that until you have 6 shots, 2 of which are low contrast, 2 medium, and 2 high. Now, I will warn you that it is not as easy as you might think to find really low contrast scenes and really high contrast scenes. So it's something you might actually have to work at a bit. So I have here in Lightroom 6 shots that roughly approximate this goal. And so if I click on this one, you can see over on the right here, the histogram in Lightroom. So you're going to, instead of making a multi-page PDF as the original instructions said, I'm going to try to have you do something fairly simple in Lightroom. I realize this is not a Lightroom course, but so I'm going to have you do as little as necessary. But the goal is to show me each of these individually with Lightroom's histogram visible. So you can see I'm in the library module. I have the histogram visual in the upper right corner. And if you don't see the histogram, you can just click on that little triangle to make the histogram visible. And now I'm going to go into the loop view, which you can do down in the lower left here. You can see loop view. And you can also see that the keyboard shortcut is an E. So you can type an E, or you can click on that, or you could actually double click on the image to get there. All right, so now I'm in my first image here, and this one you can see in the histogram, basically an image that goes all the way, that tapers down just about at 0 here on the left side, and then tapers down pretty much at 0 on the right-hand side would be normal. For example, this, although it tapers down slowly on the right, this is the light area, the lights here. You can see there are many more shadow areas than highlight areas in this image. So that's why the histogram is showing the bulk of data or information on the left side of the screen. But you can see it tapers down right about at 0 here, and then it tapers down gradually, but it doesn't go any further than the right-hand side. So this I am calling normal contrast, because the histogram shows a full range from the left to the right. And if we take a look at this one, it does the same. Now this one, you can see there are many more bright areas in it. And so the right side of the histogram has more activity, but you can see that it tapers down. Again, on the shadow side, it tapers down just as it gets to 0, gets to the left edge, and it tapers down on the right side just as it gets to the edge. So this is also normal contrast. So this one, although it's very close to normal, and actually when I shot this, I was thinking it was probably going to be high contrast because the background is so bright and the bark of this tree is so dark, but the histogram is informing us that in fact it's a little less than normal contrast. The left side here tapers down right at the edge. It doesn't gang up at the edge, and the right side comes down before it hits the edge. So although you could really argue that it's normal contrast, the fact that it didn't quite make it to the edge here, I'm going to argue that it's low contrast. And this one, likewise, doesn't meet actually on either edge. It doesn't come down all the way to the end on the left side or the right side. So this one, I think you can definitely say is low contrast, even though the scene itself looks to have a nice full contrast range. The histogram is informing us that it doesn't have any blacks and it doesn't have any whites. So I'm going to say that this is low contrast. And we come up to here, and this one is obviously high contrast. This is a silver cover on a motorcycle, and then an area of a wall here that's in shadow. And so you can see that the left side piles up against the edge. That's all this dark area here, and and it goes to black, and it's very solid there, going right up to the edge. And on the right side, you can see it goes right off the edge there as well. So this one is definitely a high contrast image. It's not a very interesting image, but it definitely is an illustration of high contrast. And finally, this one, which now it does taper down right at the edge on the left side. So it's not really going off there, but it definitely goes off the edge very slightly on the right side. That's these super bright highlights on the leaves here. Are going off the edge on the right side. So I am claiming that this is high contrast. You can see that it's not by much, because it actually does stay within the bounds on the left, and it's not going over by much on the right. So it's just barely high contrast. And this one is very unambiguously normal contrast. And this one, yeah, you might even be able to argue that this is low, except that it really does come all the way out to the edge. So I think you have a solid case for this being normal contrast. This one, you could argue, is normal contrast, because although it doesn't come all the way to the edge on either the light or dark side, it's coming close, and as is this one. So my low contrast examples are not terribly low contrast, but that's, low contrast is a challenge. Now, if I'd done something that was just the bark here, that might have been a much better example of low contrast. I tried that here, but lo and behold, it turned out to be normal contrast because of this highlight on the bark here. So it surprised me. So, okay, now the next thing you want to do is you want to get a screenshot of each of these. And so we'll start with this one. And actually, we can close this panel on the left by clicking this little triangle on the far side. And we can even close this panel on the bottom by clicking this triangle. And we can even close this one on the top by clicking that triangle. And that gives us the biggest image we're going to get, which includes the histogram. We don't want to close the one on the right because we want to include the histogram. So now what we want to do is to capture this. If you're using Mac, then I believe that there is a screen capture program in the Mac system. If you're using Windows 7 or 8, there's a great tool called the Snipping Tool. The Snipping Tool, if you click on your Start button here and then click on the Search Programs and Files, this is the simplest way of finding it, and just type snip, you will find the Snipping Tool. And so click on that. And then over here, we can click on the little triangle to the right of New, and we're going to specify that we want a full screen snip, because make sure that your Lightroom window is fully covering the entire screen before you do this. So now we've got this, we've captured this, and I'm hoping that it's going to include what's over to the right of that. And I want to just save this, save the snip, and then it'll bring up a save dialog, and I'm going to save it. Actually, I'm going to save it to my desktop, and be sure you use the appropriate name. So mine would be and then I'm going to say this is low contrast. So my name starting with my last, and then the assignment, and then dash, and I'm specifying that this is low contrast. And I'm going to save that. It will save it defaults to a JPEG file. Make sure it is a JPEG file. And that's all for that one. And I can then close that snip. And I'm back here. And if I put my mouse over this bottom area, I get into this film strip again. I can click on the second image. And now that's filling the screen. I can do another screen capture with that and save that one, etc. Do that for all of them. So we do another low, and then two normals, and then two highs. So if you have a program other than Windows 7 or Windows 8, you may have to do a little research on what the best way to capture your screen is. One way is to do control on a PC, control print screen, and then then that will capture it to your clipboard, and then you can put that image into Photoshop or Microsoft Paint or a program like that. But if you have a Mac, then I think there is a program built into the operating system that is a screen capture program. So that's that, and I hope that explains how to use the histogram and also how to save this assignment for this class. So you will be submitting 6 separate JPEG files. and then comment in the discussion about how it all went for you. Thanks.